We're all here. So thank you very much, Steve, for sending out the packet. Everybody has indicated that they received it. And we have the agenda. I'm going to, as I said, I already reminded everybody that these sessions are recorded to be using decorum as we go forward. I would like now to have a roll call of the members, starting with Andy.
I'm here.
Okay. Dana.
I'm here.
Andrea's on vacation. Kevin, are you here?
I am.
And TJ.
I'm here.
Is Eli there? I don't see him. No. Okay. Eli's not here. And obviously I'm here. So we have a roll call. That's good. We have a quorum. And I guess let's jump right into it. Steve, wouldn't you say number 2 is prior meeting minutes? You sent those out. Has anybody got any questions or concerns or corrections or addendums?
I want to thank Dana again for her time and effort in putting those together. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's a big help. So again, if there's no changes or approvals, or I need a vote for approval of those, and I'll go through it again. Andy, do you approve of the past meeting minutes?
I do.
Dana?
I do.
Kevin?
Yes.
TJ?
Yes.
And Roger says that. So it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Now, Steve, you put number 3 on the agenda, Town Moorings Database for Waterways Operations. And we have 2 fellows here, Randy and Rob, to give a presentation. So I'll say, and Steve, unless you have any other things, I'm just going to turn it over to them to give a presentation.
No, I think that would be great. Laura's theirs.
Thanks,
Have at it,
everybody.
guys.
Rob, you want to bring up whatever site you think is the best one for right now?
Word.
So we've spoken already with Dana, and we've shown her what the product looks like, and also Steve, of course. So I'll take you just through a quick overview. Maybe while Rob's bringing that up, I'll just start with sort of a little history of the business that we're running here. We started by.
Sorry, Roger, I can't seem to share my screen.
Oh,
That'd have to come from community TV.
yeah.
They may have to give permission to share screen. Anybody at
Looks like they just made you a co-host. You might be able to do it now.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, try it now.
Yep, that seems to be working now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dartmouth
Here we
TV. Okay.
Cool. Let's see. Is this Mattapoisett?
This is Marion. This is our dev site.
Got it. Okay.
It sure looks like
so-
Marion.
Yeah. Sorry, they all start to look the same to me. All the dots. So Rob and I started this business almost about 3 years ago, and we did this really based on my frustration using one of the competitors in the space to manage my mooring down in Rhode Island. But we figured we could do better, and we've learned so much as we went along, working with harbor masters and municipalities, mostly around Buzzards Bay. We got pretty lucky, and we approached Marion to help us as sort of a design partner. And you know, I say we're lucky because they actually had or have all the different flavors of things, right? All the different kinds of permits and all the use cases that, you know, we've found really everywhere. So we got kind of lucky working with them. This is the Marion UI. And as you can see, we've kind of taken an approach that leads with GIS view, leads with a map view. So you can see here, it looks a little bit like your kid's old Light Bright set maybe, but the idea here is that each one of these dots represents a mooring permit, and they're color coded to show you commercial moorings, recreational moorings. And then the red ones obviously are bad. They've got some kind of a problem, right? That's a mooring that's out of inspection, or a mooring that has a permit but doesn't have a boat associated with it, or a vessel. And we've tried to make this really easy. Rob, could you just drop down some of the filters there? So show, sign moorings without, anything. Just you surprised me.
So these are moorings that are just not assigned at all to any permit. Make a note that though this was older Marion data, so this does not reflect the state of any actual harbor at this point in time.
Yeah.
Just so I don't sort of make anything bad here, this is sort of our test data. Even though it shows Marion, it's what we're testing with internally.
Right, this is a development site that we use to test our releases, and the data is not current, but it was current at some point. So one thing that we can say is that the customers that we've brought live on the system have universally found money for their town. They have found moorings that were out of inspection. They've found moorings that weren't being collecting per foot fees. Even vessels that weren't associated at all that have added to the excise tax in the town. So that's one thing we're really happy about. And one of the reasons that we decided to base our pricing really on sort of the assets under management model. So we price this at sort of 1%, give or take. We can get discounts, or some places we have sort of a bottom threshold, but generally speaking, it's about 1% of revenue collected for assets under management. So in your case, you guys are around $300,000. We would take $3,000 of that each year to manage this for you guys. And we recalculate it annually because, as I said, Marion, for example, they found about $150,000 that they weren't collecting in the first year. So that's the mooring field. We do support all different kinds of permits. Rob, maybe just go to the permits tab, or if you want to go to the administration permit manager.
Could I ask a question on that, if
Sure.
I may?
Yeah.
Is the 1% fee inclusive of the software, or do we have to buy the software also?
No, 100%. So this is a little bit of a different model. So this is a SaaS. It's a subscription model. So you don't have to buy the software. We host the software. We run the software for you. You get all the free updates every time we improve the software. You get that for free, and it's really just a subscription per year to use it. You obviously, I think it goes without saying, you own your data. So should you ever decide to leave or go somewhere else, we'll supply you with the data that you own.
Excellent.
Okay.
Rob is showing you here the permits that we have for Marion. They've got boat berths, dinghies, dinghy docks, floats, kayaks. They've got a bunch of different things. You may have some of these, you may have slightly different ones. We are able to create these permits as we do the data import. So it's very easy for us to, manage each town's specific needs. Rob, can you go to the administration piece? I think the more interesting view here is permit manager. Yeah. So each permit also has a set of properties, if you will. So, when is the fee due for this permit? Is there a late fee? For moorings, right? It's a little more complicated. There's a per foot fee. There might be a minimum threshold. There's all kinds of things that we can associate with those permits. In Marion, for example, they have a resident a non-resident parking permit that you have to buy if you're not a Marion resident. So that gets tacked onto your harbor permit or your mooring permit. Other things that you would expect to see here: waitlist management. If you go up, Rob, to wait lists, these are broken down by the location. If you want to get a mooring, we also, by the way, support and host the online forms here. So instead of people going and downloading a PDF and printing it out and drawing on it and dropping it off at the town hall or at the harbor master's office, they can now just come here, fill out the form online. The payment is taken online using Unipay or whatever payment processor you have. It's all, one of the things that we're trying to do here is kind of modernize a lot of these town systems. So get on a more paperless path, if you will. Yeah,
So I have a question. The town of Dartmouth set up a website that was incorrect for collecting fees for Dartmouth moorings. So you're saying we could do this all with your software, collect all the appropriate fees there's a mooring fee, and then there's the boat fee. This is all doable under your software, Randy.
100%. And the reason that we're really glad to be meeting with you at this time of the year. And the reason that I kind of pinged Steve the day after Labor Day was to make sure that we have enough time to kind of work through the billing. The billing is the most important thing.
Exactly right. That's
make
been
sure
our
the
bugaboo
bills-
for years. Yep, yep, yep.
Make sure they're all correct. There's no errors. And so yeah, we feel like, working with you guys, we'll have ample time to get that all right and shake it out together.
Excellent.
Yep.
Randy, can I ask another question? What do
Sure.
you do about data privacy and data breaches? Because what I don't want to have happen is it becomes the town's fault if you have a data breach.
Yep. So currently there's no, so Rob and I have a lot of deep experience in this space, coming from software security background, but
Good.
there's really no what's called PII, or personally identifiable information, which would be something like your complete birthday, your social security number, those sorts of things. The kind of information that is stored in our database, is not really of a sensitive nature. It's like what you might find in the phone book. Maybe it's got your address. Might have your
I
boat
was
number.
more thinking honestly of credit cards and things like that. If we're going to go to an online billing, we're going to have to do something like that, I would
Got it.
imagine.
Yep. So we don't do any of that. We don't store any of that information in the database. We integrate with what are called payment providers. Unipay is one. Stripe is another one that you might have heard of. PayPal. There's a million of them out there. And we just hand off at some point in the process of payment. We go and go to their screens to take and manage the payment. They send us back a success or a failure, like this card processed successfully, so we can update the record in our system. But we don't store or keep or really manage any of that payment information. There's a pretty strict firewall between us.
Hey, Rich, this is the sand pebble.
Another question, where physically is all the data stored?
Yeah, good question, Roger. It's stored in the cloud. So,
Okay,
we can assume it's somewhere in one of Google's data centers. We use Google,
okay,
Google Cloud for everything. And, it provides us a degree of redundancy that we could never get hosting this ourselves or any of that kind of thing. So, backups and all that stuff is taken care of, sort of for us. And it's built into the price that you pay to run the system or operate the system.
I have a question when there's time.
Sure, Kevin, go ahead.
When a new customer comes on board, will Steve or the Waterways be totally eliminated for that process and they can go directly to you so that we're not passing off information that has to go to us first and then over to you once your original database has been built up, obviously?
Yeah. So when you say a new customer, do you mean like an individual, a citizen sort of thing?
Yes, a new individual. He's just been awarded a mooring, and now does he go to the site and start filling in the mooring number he was done, or will that all, and what type of boat it is and that stuff? Does that have to go through Steve, or will that go through
That's a very good question, Kevin, because obviously there's a bunch of people that are already on your waiting list that haven't set up an account in the system yet, right? So there's a couple ways that we can manage that. If it's just dribs and drabs, if it's a few people that are going on, each year. Rob, can you go to the user management, please? There's a couple ways that we can manage that. The easiest way is, you reach out to them, you figure out what their email address is, and you do this invite user action here. And you can do this is how you'll really manage most users in the system. The harbor master or somebody in the harbor master's office can invite users of various types with various levels of permission. So one would be a recreational boater, let's say, for example, who got a spot off the waiting list. So this really ties back actually, to one of the things we're really trying to accomplish here, which is pushing out the work that really falls on the harbor master's office now almost exclusively to the various places where, the responsible parties. So this person would now be responsible for uploading any insurance documentation, Coast Guard vessel documentation, whatever kind of things that you guys might collect or
Mhm.
maybe you don't collect that, mass registration, for example. Or if they're gonna get a new boat, they wanna, suggest that they have a bigger or smaller boat, they'll go in and fill that information here.
Mhm.
The same with mooring inspection. Mooring inspectors
Okay.
traditionally have, come to the harbor master's office with a bunch of soggy papers and said, here, fill this in. Here's all the inspections I did. They can now do that themselves.
If someone was to take a picture, much like you deposit a check in a bank, you can take a picture of the front. Can that picture be sent to you and then it's interpreted? Let's say they need an insurance form proof of insurance, or that the boat's registered. Would they just take a picture of the registration, and can that be submitted?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Sure. That's generally how those things get interpreted. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So Randy, it's each user essentially has an account, right? Where they'll be able to go in and manage their information. And then
Exactly.
there's a different kind of account that Steve will have where he can see and process all the information, right?
Yes, Dana, that's exactly right. And Rob, if you go back to the users, we can just give them a quick look at the roles. One of the things that we're particularly proud of is we have all these different roles, and one of the ones that has become particularly useful is like maybe the EMS or the fire department. They can have a role that allows them to see, hey, where are all the moorings? We had a thing in Marion a month or two ago. Somebody was having a medical problem on their boat on the mooring, and the fire department came and they dropped their boat in and they took off into the harbor, and they went, completely the wrong direction. The harbor master went out, had to show them where they were going. So, being able to know exactly, they obviously have sort of more of a read-only view on the harbor map, but they can certainly find their way. And this, by the way, all this whole application runs really seamlessly on your phone, on your iPad, etc. So, Rob, if you go back to the mooring map, it doesn't show it right here because Rob's in the web browser or whatever. But if you were on your phone or on a mobile device, you'd see the little blue dot that represents where you are, right? And so you can track yourself to any point on this map as you're moving along in the boat or wherever else.
Can others track you like an AIS? Is that what-
Exactly. Well, not AIS, more like a GPS. AIS is the automatic identification system. So,
Right.
it won't send out information about how fast you're going or what the name of your boat is, but you'll certainly be able to see yourself moving like you would on a chart plotter.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
I guess the last thing I'll just go over here, two things quickly. I think that you'll appreciate, since I saw number 4 or 5 on here was about pump outs. We have a nice pump out feature that allows the pump out boat operator to get a queue or a list of boats that have requested pump outs and really manage that process. They can say, here's the pending ones. They get these requests coming in, they can accept them. They can, I suppose, decline them. I don't think that happens very often. They can tell you when it's going to be done. I get a considerable amount of email now because I'm copied on everything. People saying, oh, thank you so much. It was great. Such an easy service. There's a QR code that Marion has put on signage around the docks that people can just point their phone at, and it brings up that. There you go. Thank you, Rob. And that walks you through a flow of requesting a pump out. You don't need to be you don't have to have a Town Moorings account for this. Like a transient boat could do this. But the other thing that again, on the theme of pushing work out to the end point where that work is done, they can then key in how many gallons they took. That can all be rolled up to a report that can be generated here in the system that can be provided for the state for reimbursement and that kind of thing.
Talk to us about reports, Randy. I see a column there, reports. What is that?
Rob, can you bring it up?
Yes, I can.
So right now, we're a little light on reports, but we have the pump out report. We have user reports. And, reports are really something that we can work with you guys if you want specific reports and create them. the nature of the way that we store the data makes it pretty easy for us to create those reports. Some of the reports are a little bit hidden, Rob. If you go to invoices, for example, you know, and you go to, yeah. So actually, can you go to the one that has the big numbers? Yeah, okay, great. So, you know, this is really effectively a report. It tells you that Marion had $706,000, of which, you know, and again, these numbers aren't real at this point in time because this data is old, but you know, some of it's been collected, some of it hasn't, et cetera, et cetera. If you were to go into the administration area that we were looking at before, to the permit manager, and change around the fee schedule, for example, you know, you could play around with that and see if I bump up the per foot fee to $3 a foot, what does that do to my revenue, right? So
Excellent. Well, that's what I was thinking. Exactly, Randy. It allows us a tool to better manage the harbor for our boaters, which is what we're all about.
exactly so. And to sort of predict and make sure that you're collecting everything that you should be collecting. Yeah, so are there any, I guess I've talked quite a bit. Are there any questions, any other questions that I can answer for you about this?
Yeah, I had a question on, are there,
Right.
are there implementation fees on top of the subscription fee?
No. There's not. Everybody asks us that, and we've thought about maybe adding some, but in your case, no.
Good. Good
About,
answer.
the mooring companies, I was questioned today by one of our top inspectors, and they're leaning towards a different company. I don't know if you ever heard of Moorfind, but they've been working with Moorfind to see if that will work for them in their internal billing, in their internal calendar planning. If we sign up with you and let's say the mooring company goes with another company, are they still able to just fill in the forms that we need despite what they do for their internal auditing and management?
Yeah, 100%, Steve. So I don't know that particular company, but it does sound like that's more of a business management
Yes.
scheduling thing that they might, you know, be signing up for. That's really orthogonal to us, and we would just say, hey, here's your login. We've been working with Marion and Mattapoisett most recently to kind of collect up the big mooring inspector, you know, the ones that do most of the mooring inspections around, get them logins, and they all seem to really all like it. Again, another benefit there, standardization of the information, right? You look at the data from these towns previously, and you know the chain gauge, everything's just sort of typed in by hand. We've changed it all to sort of drop downs as 3/4 inch chain, it's, you know, 2/3 inch chain, it's top chain, middle chain, bottom chain. You know, it's all very easy for them to do, just click, click, click. And it also means that the data is going to be very standardized.
When you have a minute.
Does
Yeah.
your company have a program that, like, let's say the mooring company would be able to use one for all? If I'm not trying to sell you on them, I just want to answer that question.
Yeah, well, thank you, Steve. You know, we have noticed a bunch of like what we would call adjacencies to this business.
Okay.
We're working closely. The other place that we push out a lot of work to is the boatyards. So I don't know if it's you know, in Mattapoisett, it's Mattapoisett Boatyard. They've got Barton's and Burr Brothers and so on. You guys got Concordia. I don't know if they have moorings or whatever, but
Yes,
you
I
know,
do.
yeah. So depending on sort of the level of trust and cooperation, you know, Barton's and Burr Brothers, again, they used to send over a piece of paper or, you know, a book basically with here's the roster of people that are on the moorings and here's the moorings they're on. And by the time, you know, Lisa got finished typing that all in, it was out of date and they had to send another one. And the billing would go back and forth and it was kind of a mess. So now what happens is those boatyards now have a login. They can adjust everything in real time. Everybody sees the same. They're all singing from the same hymnal, if you will. They know what the bill is going to be. So, and again, it's just one less thing that the harbor master's office really has to deal with. There are approval steps. So if you don't really trust the boatyards, you can have this all go through an approval process where you would approve it or decline it. Or you can just let it flow in and you can be informed via email or other kind of notification method that changes were made. So to your point, or to your question more specifically, Steve, we've been thinking about ways that we can enhance the software to better support, for example, in boatyards, statements of work and billing and inventory and those sorts of things that would support them. For mooring inspectors, we've talked about calendaring, scheduling, those kinds of things. We haven't built that yet, but we certainly could, and we would welcome maybe an introduction. We'd love to hear about what their needs are, going forward.
Do you know Concordia? They do have moorings. They have a bunch of moorings.
I know Concordia. I went boat shopping down there a couple of years ago.
Okay.
I mean, they're a famous yard, obviously, so I do know them by reputation, as well as I've been to the actual yard and was looking at a little harbor 42 there for a little while.
No, I didn't know if you needed an introduction to Stuart McGregor up at Gulf Road.
Oh, great. We would love an introduction, because actually one of the things that we think is really key to making our municipalities successful is making sure that all the stakeholders are lined up around, adoption of this. It's not just the harbor master's office adopting it. We want to make sure that we have all your mooring inspectors on board, your yards, and your individual, boaters as well.
So it's Concordia, Stuart McGregor has a bunch of moorings. I think Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they have the most moorings in the harbor of Dartmouth. Then it would be Davison Trip, and then Marshall Marine has a few moorings down there, our good friend Jeff. So let's take it one step at a time. Let's get it approved by our town hall. Then I'd be happy to help you, Randy and Rob, with our local connections, because I agree with you. We all want to be literally on the same sheet of music and software here. So it works seamlessly together going forward.
Thanks, Roger. Yeah.
Well, you've answered all my questions. Anything else from the group?
I have one question. What do we do about people who are not tech savvy? I mean, we're essentially mandating technology to people.
Yeah, we're not. We still have methods. For example, we'll still send out bills in paper form if we don't have an email account for people.
Okay. So there is another way. There is another way then for people. What I'm getting concerned about now is everybody's just being forced into all of this technology, and when it works great, and when it doesn't work, it provides hours of frustration to people. We've had this over and over again on our own collecting, and we wind up with like a bunch of bills that the people thought they paid them, tried to pay them, couldn't pay them, didn't know if it went through. We've had a host of issues with this. I'm not saying that any of it's based on your software, but we're trying to avoid that, I think, just as much.
That's a really good point, TJ. And maybe since as Randy and Rob, this would be a question. During our initial rollout phase, would you guys be available for just those folks? And I can think of a few that are technologically not very apt, and maybe you could be there to do a little hand-holding. Would that be part of the initial package anyway, something like that?
Yeah, of course. We're happy to support and train as much as is necessary.
Okay.
We do like to feel like the system is pretty straightforward. Like if you can send email, if you're familiar with some of the more common operations you would do on the web, this shouldn't feel too.
Don't be surprised. There are still some people that don't own a computer, don't send email, and yeah. So
Absolutely.
anyway,
Agreed.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, those people have rights too.
exactly right. I'm saying.
I mean, the government shouldn't be mandating, only one way of doing things.
No, I agree with you, TJ. That's what I'm saying. We got to make it so it's easy for those folks to get some help, and we can help get training with others to help walk them through it.
Yeah.
Randy, one more question on the same thing.
Yep.
So let's go back to fees. If we use the portal for people to pay, how do they generally pay? Do they have to give us access, or the third party vendor that you've chosen access to their checking account?
That's the
I've seen
cheapest.
that popping up more and more, which I don't care for either.
Or
No,
credit
I
card,
don't,
right?
I don't either, right? It's a more just because it's a pain in the butt to have to go get my checkbook out and type in all those numbers and everything like that. But it is cheaper for whatever reason. The banking system favors like an e-check versus a credit card. When you present a credit card online, for maybe it doesn't do it for Amazon because they process trillions of dollars a year, but smaller implementations such as Dartmouth or or what have you, the credit card processing companies can charge pretty high fees. So if you owe $200 for your mooring, are you really going to want to pay $50 in additional
No, I
fees?
don't think it's fair to do. I don't think it's fair to do to. I mean, those things can't get passed on to the consumer. I don't think it's fair.
Agreed. So, I don't know if we talked about exactly who the payment provider is for Dartmouth. But again, if you're able to put in your e-check information, there's basically no fee. It might be 25 cents or something like that.
TJ, excuse me, if you're gonna pay your property taxes on the town and you wanna pay with a credit card, you get upcharged a fee. as
But
opposed-
there's Kevin, there's an alternate way of paying it. I can go and pay it with a check, and
Right.
I don't have to go through that.
Exactly, but what I'm getting at is that if they choose to use the credit card versus a check, then we'll have to,
Agreed. That's voluntary.
yeah,
That's a voluntary action on their part to say to either they want the points or they want something else out of it. What I'm saying is we need to have a method for people to be able to pay without incurring an additional fee.
Yeah,
right.
to be clear, you can print this out. You can walk into the harbor master's office or town hall. You can mail a check. There's
That Randy, you just answered. That's exactly what the question was.
you
That's how
don't
I
have
should
to
have
do it
asked
this
it.
way. It's just a convenience for most
Right.
people.
Good.
Prefer to pay online these days.
Right. Any other questions from anyone? Hearing none. I want to thank Randy and Rob. Thank you very much, and good luck. I think you've got a good thing here. I certainly am intrigued, and the next step is we're going to take a roll call vote to proceed to go to. We have to go to town hall and ask Gary if we can do this, and we will do that as soon as possible. So let me take a roll call vote in favor of proceeding with this, starting with Andy.
Yep, absolutely.
Dana,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
and TJ,
Yes.
and Roger's in favor. So that's a unanimous vote, Steve. Uh-oh, is that?
Can't hear me. I got logged off.
Oh, hi, Steve, I hear you. Steve,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Yes, I'm here.
So we had a unanimous roll call vote to proceed with this, so we can start to work with these guys and get this system working in the town of Dartmouth. So we'll say thank you. You don't have to hang out anymore. We're very much appreciative of your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
as well. Look forward to working together.
Yep.
Take care.
Thanks for having us. Talk soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Right, thank you. If we could add time is of the essence to that letter, Roger.
No, it's gonna be in person. I'll go
Okay.
right over. So Steve, are you still there?
I'm here. I'm gonna be on the phone from here on out, but I am
Okay,
here.
okay.
I-
Well, then we have a,
Point out, yeah, the problem with technology in this office. So
Well, Steve's proving my point.
yes, exactly. I was gonna say ipso facto, yeah, thanks. Steve.
Exactly. It didn't take long for it to get proven. Let me ask you one thing, Roger, on this. Will we have a choice of what parts of it we implement? What I don't want to have us jump headfirst into an overarching thing that does not work afterwards. I'd like to see it working and then add to it as it goes along. I've bought enough technology in this firm to know that every time I get sold something, it never works like it's supposed to. And the deeper I get into it, the harder it is to get out of it afterwards.
Right. Well, I mean,
Well-
go ahead, Steve.
we need desperately to get billing out of the way. We need
Correct.
to get billing done for next year. The way we've done it in the past, we relied on staff that may not likely be helping us in the future. So I don't know how else to put that at this point, but we need something that the idiots remaining will be able to PhD it, push here dummy. So yeah, it's getting, I'm gonna say this, it's dire, from where
Okay.
I'm sitting.
So to
Okay.
TJ, to follow up with that, I think what I like about these guys, and I did talk to them at length, they're local. They're starting off with this business. It sounds like it's 2 or 3 years old. We did talk to Marion. They're very pleased with their efforts in software. It is working for an adjacent town that's very analogous to our town. And I think we really should proceed with this and see how it goes to help Steve with billing, quite honestly.
I like it. I like it for that standpoint because I think that's one of our biggest bugaboo.
Yes.
With regard to the rest of all the database in there and stuff like that, I would defer to Steve as to what he would find useful there and whatnot. I'm going to just say my last concern. It's a small startup business. Okay, they seem to know what they're doing and they have it do. But what happens if they're gone in 6 months because they don't make it? It isn't financially viable to them. So we're not buying this from Google. So in other words, we could log in one day and it isn't working.
Well, as he did say it, and I asked that question too, we will always own our data. We will always have that in a format that we can go back to, I guess. Well, I know, I talked to Julian about this. We could go back to the old ways, but we really don't want to do that, TJ. But we would own the data.
I guess you're misinterpreting what I'm saying. I don't think of it as a trial basis. I think this will work very well. What I'm saying is that we're relying on a very small company that is in a very small niche market right now. And if we do not preserve our ways of doing things, meaning we have another way of doing it, we will be in a much worse world than we are right now if something happens to them.
Correct. And we own the database that we're using now, and we're going to try this new methodology. If it doesn't work, we could go back to the old ways, TJ.
Or a replacement thereof. Okay.
Or a replacement there. As you saw in emails, there are other companies sort of cropping up now trying to get into this space. I personally feel very comfortable with going with this particular group, mostly because they're very local. I mean, they're right down the street. And, I think that that goes a long way. They're not in Bangalore, for one thing.
I'm
Yeah,
a little confused. When you say we own the data, though, would we also own the software? So just to get
No, there's no software.
There's no software. Okay, so
It's not like the old days where you used to buy stuff, put it on your hard drive, and you owned it. Now it's like, as he said, it's sitting in Google something somewhere.
Right.
But could Julian, for example, come on board and we just continue it in their absence? I guess is what I'm asking.
No,
You couldn't.
what they have is a proprietary part. Dana, you know this stuff way better than I do.
Yeah, not the same system, but we would still have, I mean, think of it as like, we would still have the list of everybody who's,
Right.
What their boats are and where they are. And, we have all that background data, but we wouldn't have the fancy way to show them and to,
But if they
sort
change,
them.
they change the name of the boat, then we couldn't go in and change the name.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I do like the fact that permission is required to make certain changes so that a person who was given a mooring for a 20-foot boat the next year cannot just come in with a 40-foot boat and think that that's going to work. And it does happen. That does happen. And it also happens that, an inspection comes in, it doesn't belong in our system for some reason, like maybe the mooring permit wasn't renewed or the inspection isn't proper for some reason, or it failed, or whatever it might be. So I like the idea that we can push a button to accept or swipe left or swipe right to reject, whatever needs to be done.
I think you do raise a real concern, TJ. I mean, it's a small company and honestly, it's pretty darn cheap, right? So I don't quite understand how they stay in business. If it's costing us, if their revenue is tens of thousands of dollars, and it looks like there's at least 2 people working on it.
Like I said, I'm impressed with what I saw. Look, I'm a lawyer. I have to raise these concerns.
Right. No, thank you.
So,
And they're all
Yeah.
good points, all good points.
and
Yeah,
I
I
can
would argue that it's, oh, go ahead.
Well, I can say that TJ, I did kind of look to see what else is out there. And I think there are other companies that do similar stuff. It was hard to tell how active they are. They were all more expensive. So, you know,
Okay.
there was that. But you know,
I'm comfortable going forward with them.
Yeah.
You know, we go with eyes wide open together.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, and it seems like it's worth the risk too. I mean, it's something that we desperately need to address internally. You know, I've had experience of going with small organizations that fold, but I've also been dropped by the larger organizations when they shift their business model too. So
When they go into
You know,
overdrive, yeah,
I
bye.
think you
See ya.
go for it at some point.
Let's just say we'd all be in the same boat.
Yeah,
uh,
thank you,
No pun intended.
thank you. So Steve, how do you want to proceed with going to, we have a unanimous vote and go make an appointment to see Gary and get approval to go?
you're
You're
muted.
muted, Steve.
Sorry, I muted because of the radio. I think it's going to be important that we do go together and talk to him. It's going to be difficult because he's preparing for the October town meeting with finance, budget, capital.
Yep,
But I don't think we're going to wait until after town meeting. I think we could try to get in there whenever we can.
Okay.
It's not like we're asking him to do anything. All we're looking for is a go-ahead, so.
No, I
that's-
think I think he's mostly on board because he understands it. And I
Yeah.
think that there are going to be other steps we have to take at town hall. There's a co-interim acting town manager who is, I think, perched on the doorstep of maternity, parental leave. I think that there's a systems analyst that is going to play some role in this, but I'm not sure what because I have not worked with a systems analyst since he's been here. So, yeah.
why don't we set up a meeting with Gary as soon as possible and go in and at least get his permission. As far as I'm concerned, he's the finance guy for town.
Yeah.
We're getting a subscription model that is I think, very reasonable per year.
Yeah.
To take a lot of problems off of the harbor master's office that we've experienced in the past. So
He's going to need to tell us if there are additional steps. You know, does the system analyst need to be on board? Does the other town manager need to be on board? Are we satisfying the procurement rules, regulations, laws of the state?
yeah, I think we are, Steve, keeping it under. Well, yeah, we weren't quite 300,000, were we? We're two something.
I'd have to look, but yeah, $10,000 is a threshold that I think, you know, we have to be cognizant of.
We should be well clear of that.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's a
I
three-year
think we-
contract. 3-year contract at $3,000 a year brings us up to $9,000. If that should change, then we'd have a problem.
Right.
or we could do it 1 year. We could do it 1 year with renewals if it was becoming an issue. But we
Yeah.
should hopefully we're clear. We'll go up to that amount. I mean, it's a small dough.
Yep.
It
Small
is.
dough, and I think you're getting a big bang out of it.
No, it's,
I think you are, TJ, quite honestly. I think you're getting pretty good value here. I get the feeling, looking at and reading those guys, they made other money elsewhere and now they're doing this sort of for fun.
Is there some way that we could, if we had someone who donated that money, can we just go ahead and do it with Waterways?
I don't think so. No, there's no way to do this kind of stuff without integrating it into the town.
We got to go ask. I have emails from Gary who's already indicated his sort of in favor of this
Yeah.
going forward. So I'm not expecting impediments. I'm expecting go for it, guys. This is your budget. You are supposed to manage the boaters' ability to run their moorings and fees, and that's our job. So we're doing a good thing for the boaters, and Gary would understand that. And as he said, we can hopefully collect a little bit more money for the town, so it'll be good.
Steve, could this ultimately be integrated with the excise tax?
I don't know. Because I don't understand, obviously, there is a problem with excise tax. We still haven't seen the bills for fiscal year 24, and I don't think we will. But excise tax falls under a state law. I can't assess it. I can't collect it. It must come from an assessor with certifications from the state. So unlike our fees that I can assess, that I can set the rate for, I believe only a tax assessor can issue excise bills.
Yes. What I would suggest is we stay away from that for now, because that'll open the proverbial Pandora's box on this thing.
What I have made certain of, and it is very clear, is that this system will generate the report that we have to provide to the tax assessor. So
Right.
even though we're not doing the billing, we are required by state DOR and by the town assessor to provide a list of all vessels that were habitually or principally moored in the town of Dartmouth on July 1st of each year. That's our waterways permit. So if you get a waterways permit for the season, you go on that report. Now it's a process. With this new town man, I'm assured that it's a push button report. So
Nice.
Excellent. So we have our action, Steve. You and I'll do this as soon as possible and go see Gary.
sounds good. Let me
Okay.
know, or I can.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll send him an email as soon as we're done here. How's that?
okay, that's perfect.
How's that for quick? Yeah.
Before you leave the country, Roger.
Before I leave the country, you got it. Steve, that brings us to number 4, your 2024 financial analysis. That's a good segue.
Yeah, I've got, I think I sent out all the paperwork on the retained earnings. We get one of these every year after they go through the budget, find out what was spent and what was raised and what the remainder is. And the remainder basically is, did we overspend, did we underspend, and by how much? My reading of the June 30th end of fiscal year 2024 is that we were ahead or a gain of $34,719, which brings the retained earnings in the department on July 1st. I'm sorry, June 30th of 2024, but it brings our retained earnings up to 126,303. That retained earnings is deceitful because we don't really have that excess. That's what we've got to live on until next billing cycle. So we came out ahead by almost $35,000. We did not get $42,000 in excise tax. That's half of the 84 the town normally bills. That money was just not available to us in fiscal year 24 because the town never billed it. So I expected we were going to be on the negative side, but through what you see coming in here for fees and revenue, we exceeded. Our revenues were 374,267, and I think we had budgeted. I have to look it up. I'm pretty sure we budgeted slightly less than that.
Well done.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah, well done.
Steve, a quick question on the excise tax. When you say the town never billed it, where did that get tripped?
Well,
Is that an
process-
assessment issue or nothing got signed or what? Why didn't that go out?
that I can't tell you. It's internal to the assessor's office. I can tell you that by last fall, and I can give you the date in the email with a report. Last fall, this office sent to the town assessor our list of boats that were here for the summer. We do that every year in the fall, and normally we get an excise bill by January, and it would be a 60-day return date. So they would have 60 days to pay. We would know by July 1st if the person had paid their excise tax, and then we'd be able to deny them a mooring if they didn't pay their excise tax, as state law requires. Well, our email went out, it was received, and inside the assessor's office, nothing was done with that information.
Okay,
So-
well, we need to do something to get that revived somewhere along the line.
Well, I've asked for lost revenue replacement from the ARC. Whatever, I'm losing what it all means there, but the money from COVID. There was some amount of money that the town had available to it, if it could show lost revenue, and I suggested that we've lost revenue, and so is the town, and it would be suitable to come from that COVID money, and that's gotten no traction. So I can't go in there and say, hey.
Yeah,
give
no,
me
I
this.
understand, yeah.
I have boaters that are telling me, hey, I haven't seen an excise bill, but it's on my calendar to pay my excise tax.
Yeah.
You can't be delinquent in a bill that is never issued.
Right. Now, is it too late to issue a bill?
That's a legal question that I think only the assessor can answer, because there are requirements that the bills be out by a certain time and
Okay,
that the due date be a certain time. And I think all of that has got to be within the fiscal year.
Okay.
We are so far past the fiscal year that
Yeah.
I'm at the point now where I'm looking to issue the fiscal.
next year, yeah,
25.
sure, yeah, we're coming up on January. Is
I
Kevin-
believe they have to issue them by February 1.
Okay.
Steve's right. It's a confluence of DOR and state regulations, basically, and interlaced into the town, also interlaced into us for the list. So I think if I remember correctly, the base bill has to go out on by January 31st or something along those lines,
Okay,
or February 15th. I can't don't quote me on it, but it is early in the mid fiscal year.
Yeah,
Right.
so bottom line, Kevin, it was not the harbor master's
oh,
fault.
I know that, but what I'm trying to do is avoid it in the future. I mean, does the assessor's office, do they have a chairman or a boss, or do we just go talk to Kevin Santos or somebody else down there? And, we need to hold somebody's feet to the fire here. And I don't expect it to be you, Steve, because you're a town employee, but we can certainly bring some aggravation to bear. At least I'm willing to do that, as usual.
There are
Thank you,
3
Kevin.
elected board of assessors, and one of them has reached out to me already. Kevin Santos called to find out what was going on. I gave him the same rundown I gave you, and he said, this is ridiculous, unacceptable, whatever. And I haven't heard back. I've also heard that there was some reluctance to jump on any billing until there's a little bit of a battle going on between the assessors and the town. I don't know what that is. I don't really care what that is, but I don't know if we got caught between that net. Our information is one of the 3 spokes. It's my information. It's the state registry that assessors get directly from the state law enforcement. And then there's the federal documentation for all boats that are documented and home ported within the confines of Dartmouth. So I can't tell you, what they did with my information and with that other information, but I can tell you that I think the ship has sailed on getting fiscal 24 excise bills.
I'm worried about 25 at this point.
Yeah, I am
there's
too.
no confidence that it'll go on, won't go on.
Kevin, I find you to be a wonderful person to go do a deep dive on what is happening in town hall. And I find it that you always get interesting results. If you so choose to go see the assessor's office and say, hey, guys, what's happening? What happened in the past? Is this going to happen in the future? We would like to know.
Just another part of my portfolio, Roger.
And it's a wonderful part of your portfolio. We thank
Roger's
you
taking
for
the
that.
leash off.
Consider yourself unhooked, Kevin.
Thank you. All right, I'll look into that. I do have some
Thank you.
relationship with the assessor's office, being on the prudential committee with the fire department and that stuff. So
Right.
they do have a little track into that office. So
Well, it's not
Yeah.
just us. We lost 42,000. The town
Exactly.
lost
Yeah,
42,000.
it's also another 42,000 too.
Yeah.
They want to raise our taxes and they can't even collect the money that they're owed. I mean, man,
no,
go,
okay.
go, Kevin, go.
I can't imagine that, Gary is well aware of the problem. I cannot imagine that the select board has not been made aware of the problem. Again, not my role to do that, but there was some hope that we would see relief from that COVID money, that it's not being used. And again, I've gotten no traction with that request.
They did extend the deadline on using that money into September, I believe. So there's
There are
still-
buckets. There are buckets of COVID money, but the
Right.
one I was particularly interested in is lost revenue, and that revenue is identifiable.
and I think the time has been extended to use that money. So it was initially reported it was sometime in June, but I think we're out into September that money would still be available.
Well, go find out, Kevin. This would be a
Okay.
good one. And for our next meeting, you could give us a little update.
Sure.
That'd be fantastic.
Okay.
Anything to report on the CVA pump out grant balance, Steve, there?
That's growing, and again, I don't want to make it look too attractive for plucking purposes, but we get 75% reimbursement for everything we spend on the pump out program, up to an annual limit set by the state based on available funding. And as of close of our fiscal year, there's 163,680, which would buy another pump out boat, perhaps another truck to pull the pump out boat. I mean, it's all subject to future appropriation. But
Is your present pump out boat appropriate for
It's-
your needs right now, Steve?
it's absolutely perfect with a new engine that I put on it last year, a 4-stroke Suzuki. Yes, it hasn't skipped, and I'm going to knock on wood, even though I'm not suspicious, but it hasn't skipped the beat this summer. I don't have the staff to have 2 of them, or I
Right.
look at that. But I mean, for capital planning, our truck is 10 years old. It only has 50,000 miles, and I'm not looking to replace it right now. But I always said the next guy can worry about that, but that may be wishful thinking at this point. So it's there. I mean,
That's a good thing. No, it's good that it's there and we should be aware of it. Thank you for managing that so well. Anything on the updates for the SEC grant from Steve or Kevin? Have you heard anything?
we applied. I haven't heard anything. Kevin, have you on that?
No, I haven't. Mum's the word on that so far. Believe me, I've
Hmm.
asked, but
It never takes this long to get an answer before.
right, I know, pretty tight lip. I don't know. There might be something going on. I really don't know.
Okay, well, and we'll review that next time. 6, update status on current ongoing grant projects, Steve.
Well, our marina project, I'm just going to call it the marina project, despite that, it's a pier and all that goes with it. It has been kicked to November. So our start was looking at the end of September, early October. Now it's the end of October, early November. We still do not have an Army Corps of Engineer license. For whatever reason, they just haven't responded. They've thrown a few, we need this, and we need that. But they have not given a yes or no to those permits. And in theory, we were scheduled to start within a couple of weeks. And we're proceeding as though we're going to get that, but Patrick is just as befuddled as I am as to why it's taken this long. So that's the marina. Dredge feasibility, we paid, waiting for the final report. I haven't seen that. The financial valuation, I met with Chris Vitale, and I think we're awaiting a final report on that. Haven't heard from him since early summer when we met. And there's been no news at all on those 2 engineering planning projects for Rogers Street and Apponeganset Point. We don't have a town planner, and I know the town planner was going to take the lead on at least Apponeganset, but I also think that the Rogers Street feasibility and engineering was going to involve somewhat planning, conservation in our department, and that's been silent as well.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Number 7, you say I have a title, a department update.
Many of you know, I lost my only town full-time employee for the summer. Rob Miller was out on medical leave. He's back. He came back the last week of August, which allowed me to take 3 days of vacation. The first 3 days I had taken off all summer. I've been recording, but not getting paid for the time that I've had to fill in to cover his shift on top of mine. We took on new employee, Peter Dautel. He's been remarkable. He's been excellent. He's what got me through the summer. Another almost former employee who hadn't been here for 2.5 years came back, and he filled in a few days a week. So that helped. I've got some interest already for next season, and I'm going to follow up on that before I lose out. So even though we're still in season, I call it season 24, I'm looking ahead to season 25 to get even more people. We need a depth of bench. If something should happen to either one, Rob or myself, it showed what happens. Coverage it falls back to one person, which is it's not manageable, not tenable, and has caused some probably irreversible changes to my life. But
how about clerical help, Steve? If we go with this new service, it sounds like that's something that really could be offloaded from your shoulders onto somebody who is computer savvy anyway.
Absolutely. And that was actually brought up by Gary himself. said to me that he wants to revisit the denial we all heard
Yep.
October Halloween meeting with the select board
Yep.
2 years ago. And he thinks it's ludicrous that department has no consistent clerical year-round, even part-time presence. And I explained to him that everybody in that Halloween meeting saw the need for clerical except for the town manager. And he said that town manager is gone, so we're gonna revisit it.
Yeah,
Good. That's positive.
that is positive, and this is a great opportunity to bring him or her on board to help with this new database management system, which would be great.
Steve, I have a quick question just to go back to the marina for a second. Are we under some kind of timeline with the contract with the contractor to build that marina?
Yeah, we are. We have deadlines and commitments, as they say, and I don't know offhand what they are, because we have both Fourth Engineering to take care of that for us. And Patrick is very much aware, and the November start and the request to push it to November has not pushed us up against any irreversible time limits, but they also have imposed time of year restrictions on us. So this has got to be done so that we don't interrupt the mating season of the one-eyed newt or something like that.
Right. Okay.
So they're cognizant of that as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Steve, for all that update. We should press hard for getting you more help. Are there any topics that anybody can think of that we didn't put down on the agenda? Kevin, did you have something that you wanted to ask?
I did it, it just took the wind out of my sail a little bit with this marina delay, but should that move forward, I'd like to send a letter to select board recommending that they consider the name of dedicating that marina to Warren Hathaway at the Dias Landing. And I think he's certainly more than his legacy lives on in the town and through many of the boaters and sailors and the sailing school and all that stuff. So I think that would be a great tribute to him. And
Agreed. Let's get the cart being pulled along correctly first and get it built.
I'd like
But
to
I
make
agree. I'll be pleased as punch to write that
That'd be
letter.
a fitting tribute to him.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
Absolutely.
And
the other thing, maybe for the next meeting would be to see how we're doing with a waiting list or a lottery or however we're going to get that going. I know the past town administrator wasn't keen on starting that till it's all built, but somewhere we should be lining up our customers for the springtime, because what people are doing in the next year boating season often starts in December, November, January of the previous year. So
October, actually, believe it or not. And I've had visits from people, they want to get on the waiting list, and I tell them all the same thing. I can't make a waiting list for something we don't have yet.
Right.
There was a business plan that a draft business plan that I was required to submit to the prior town administrator.
Yep.
To my knowledge, it was never looked at, never reviewed, and was certainly never commented on with me. So that needs to be dusted off, and maybe it was right, maybe it was wrong. I don't know. But we always are behind the 8 ball when it comes to doing things like who's going to use it, how much are we going to charge, whatever the preferences of assignment might be.
Are those the things that we would decide, Steve, as to how we would go about marketing that and then just presenting it to the town? I mean, I think we're more qualified to come up with that information, and perhaps
it would probably be your advice to me or to the town, as adopted by the town, implemented by me. That's the way I look at it, up, down, and back out to the people.
Okay.
I know that there's some.
We did do a pro forma. We did do a pro forma business plan, and we probably should revisit it since it's probably 2 or 3 years old now. But I'm harking back to our friends who, with this new software, that might be a fantastic tool to have us to utilize to create a waiting list for the new marina and utilize that to get there. And for me, I think certainly town residents should get first priority in going there. And if we don't sell out, we'll go open it up to anybody and say, if you want to pay, we have this, we built it, hopefully they'll come. And I
Well,
think,
we have a delicate balance because the CPC wants to pay 20%. They want at least 20% set aside for local residents. SEC is state funded, so they want equal access for all state residents.
right,
I think that we can hit the 20% local.
yeah,
No problem with that. And beyond that, we'll see what happens. But that's our boundaries, if you will.
I guess the thing that would be easy to set up, that perhaps we don't know exactly how it'll play out, but we could put kind of a lottery in motion that someone will get first refusal on whatever finally gets developed or finalized. So are we still planning to do a lottery, Steve? Is that something that you're?
I can't think of any fairer way to allocate the first round of usage. I cannot. It's got to be by lottery. It's got to be with, the final awards have to follow at least a 20% set aside for local. But it
Sure.
also is, we put out a lottery for a dinghy, and I guarantee one of the first 3 people are going to show up with an 18-foot dinghy. So we would have
Yeah.
to set the parameters.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, right, the lottery, the number that you get would be conditional on what's available, with our details, so to speak. So
Sure.
at least if the lottery number 1 has a 20-foot boat and we're looking for somebody to put a dinghy, then we have to go to the next one. And, much like the boat lengths, when you got the mooring scenarios, the next one on the list has got a big boat and only the small mooring, then he can't go there. So
Right.
we
So-
could develop a similar scenario.
Steve, when you said you had a business plan from a couple years ago, did it lay out those sort of processes?
Yeah, I would have to look at it again,
Yeah.
but I believe that it said that this would be we would have to determine the size once it's built. I couldn't say at that point how
Right.
big the dinghy dock, how long could the dinghies be, how long could the float space be, but allocation initially by lottery, then a waiting list, and then, failure to renew, removal, kind of like what we do with moorings. If you don't renew by a certain date, there's a late fee. If you don't pay the late fee by a certain date, then you're done. It goes to the next person on the list who has something that fits there. And
So I'm just wondering if it makes sense to send that out to us, just, for our feedback.
sure, it's been a while. I think there are a lot of new members since that.
Yeah.
So I'll send out I think it's called a draft business plan.
It
Thank
was,
you.
and it did, to answer your question, it had a sort of a dinghy area and the dinghy prices, as I remember. And then we always wanted it to be a small boat area, small boat marina. So 17 feet and under, as I remember, Steve, we did define that for that inner area where you could just have a spot. You'd have a spot and tie your boat up and you'd be
Tie
assigned.
alongside, the tie alongside float.
Yeah, and they would have a different price, Dave. So there was sort of a two different pricing, but we should revisit it because it is
But what,
old.
if I may, Roger, we're not committed to any configuration other than the layout. What we do with the layout afterwards, we can start to figure out the economic best way of doing it, right?
Right.
Once it's built
Absolutely,
or coming
TJ.
up on building.
Absolutely. If we're inundated by 17-foot motorboats and we go, geez, we're gonna make some nice money here, maybe, and nobody applies for a dinghy, maybe that's what we do. We are totally free to do what we want. This is just one that we were told to create a concept, and this was a concept that we came up with. So if you can't find it, Steve, I know it's
September.
it's
I've got
somewhere on
here
a hard drive for me.
September of 22.
Okay.
And September 13th, 2022, business operation plan draft, Arthur F. Dyer Small Boat Dinghy Marina. Yeah.
That seems like yesterday.
If I could go back, if I could just.
I
go
know.
back to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Goes fast.
Okay. Yeah, send that around, Steve. That'd be great. And yeah, we should revisit it and chat about that next time when we have our next meeting.
Could I throw one more thing out there, Roger?
Oh,
Maybe-
sure, Kevin, why not?
We're down a member right now, and would we want to consider bringing Eli on as a full-time, or how would we go about that? If that sounds.
I reached out and invited him to this meeting. He said he was going to come, but I can reach out again
Yeah.
and say, geez, you know, we're down, Eli, we really wanted to chat with you, but
I think, Roger, I think we need to move these meetings back to 4 o'clock in the afternoon for,
okay,
this accommodates our schedule because we're sitting in offices, but it does not accommodate his schedule, I'm sure of,
okay.
you
All right.
know?
So if everybody likes that, that's fine with me. How about you, Steve? You're the busy guy.
I honestly, I have no idea what's coming up in the future, but I carved my calendar out and put things in stone so that I can't get bumped. I don't know. I serve at the pleasure of the town.
Okay.
Same here.
To that end, how about October 15th is a Tuesday at 4 p.m. for our next meeting?
I'm
It's
good.
It's a Tuesday at 4 p.m. It'll be Zoom, and we'll have several topics that we've alluded to today that we can follow up on, not the least of which is the Dias Landing, and see how the Army Corps is doing there. I don't know. It probably just has fallen between the cracks, if I know
Well,
them.
it hasn't, because I've seen the emails where Patrick is pushing and prodding, and I get the responses when they get responses, but they're not coming back. It's I can't explain any of that, but he's trying, and he's not letting it fall between the cracks, but they're just not responsive.
So let me ask you a poignant legal question. We got the money, we got a contractor, we got a contract.
Yeah.
Can we go ahead without Army Corps permission?
I posed that to Patrick. I said, what if we just ignore it and go? And he said, he doesn't think that'll work, but he hasn't seen it not work either. So I don't know.
If we sort of build a pier and they come in and go, oh, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
sorry.
we've got the demolition and they say, no, you can't.
Yeah, I see. No, yeah, I guess I'd vote to give that a shot, especially the existing pier. I mean, sure.
It needs
Well,
work.
maybe, Roger, who's our state rep? Yeah, I mean, our federal rep.
Keating and
Yeah.
Bill
Maybe
Keating.
reaching out to their office as the chairman and just say, can someone help a little bit with this?
Yeah.
Like, the call might help a little bit.
Bill Keating. Yep. I can do that.
It's good. It's a good idea.
That's I haven't been pulling the political thing, but let me run that idea by Patrick, who's very versed. Foth does this all the time. And if he thinks that would help, I don't want to stir up a hornet's
No.
nest. Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
we can't make it worse.
I was just gonna say, you don't want to stir a hornet's
Careful what you
nest
say.
either.
Yeah.
Careful what you say.
Let me ask Patrick
Yeah.
that, and I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to do that if it's going to help.
And the 15 is good with me also.
Okay.
It's good for me.
Okay. Thank you. Dana, is that okay for you?
Yeah, works.
Okay. And I will reach out to Eli and just say what's happening and get him. And Steve, I will send Gary an email right now saying we just had a meeting and we'd really like to talk about this. I mean, it could be a video, it could be a phone call, it could be you and me just zip up there and say, have you got, I don't think this is a big deal. I think it's 10 minutes of his time, quite honestly.
Yeah, and an instruction as to where we go from him saying, okay, you got my blessing, you need X, Y, and Z after me, if that's the case.
If that's the case, I said, since this is a money thing, it really has nothing to do with,
yeah, but I don't know how the two of them are interacting and who's, I don't even want to get
Who's
involved.
sandbox? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's go talk to the guy who's in charge of all the money for the town. And I think he's already indicated positively. So let's chug forward with this. I think this could be a great tool for helping us with all these things going forward. Quite honestly, that would be great.
I agree.
Steve, quickly on that excise tax. Did the automobile excise taxes go out? It's just the boating we're talking about?
Yeah, they're not connected in any way. There are different times for the automobile excise, but I know that I've paid the household excise for automobiles.
Okay.
I know that the property tax has gone up.
Okay.
And the other excise tax the town issues is for personal property. You know,
Yep.
if you've got a business and they want to charge you for your Xerox, a copy or a printer or whatever. So,
Right. Thank you.
Any other comments or anything from anybody?
All good here.
Well, excellent. Thank you all very, very much. As always, we We really appreciate your time, and I'll see you October 5th. So I'd suggest a motion to
15th, right?
adjourn.
Did you say
October
15th, Roger?
15th of October.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Goodbye, all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.